Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vic Reynolds, Director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me here today. Deborah, thank you for this invitation, and thank you to the Institute. I'm very honored and I'm very humbled to be with you. I just want to thank you for this chance to address you during the 2020 annual convening of the Institute on Human Trafficking. I'm honored and I'm humbled to speak with you, but I'm even more honored and humbled to stand shoulder to shoulder with each of you as we fight to stop the scourge of modern day slavery, what you and I know is human trafficking. Let me begin by thanking each of you for what you do in this battle against the evil of human trafficking. For those of you who have been soldiers in this war for years and years, thank you. Thank you for your grit, for your perseverance, and for your determination to see this fight to the very end. For those of you who may be a little newer in this battle, thank you. Thank you for your willingness to join us in this fight. I'm here to tell you that we're making strides in this battle. And I'm also here to proclaim that one day, hopefully soon, we'll be able to declare victory. The stakes are too great to allow this darkness to prevail. And the more light that you and I shine on this evil, the faster it will fade. So thank you, each of you, for what you do. You know, hopefully next year at the 2021 annual convening, we'll be able to physically be in the same building together so we can see each other, shake each other's hand, and congratulate each other face to face. But until then, I know you'll stand with me and join with me in making the best of this situation. And again, thanking you, even though it's virtual, for this opportunity to speak with you today. Let me begin by telling you just how much I've enjoyed being the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. It's a great job. And I'm just as humbled today as I was back in February of 2019 when Governor Brian Kemp asked me to consider taking this appointment. You know, I had a great job. I was the district attorney of Cobb County. It's very close to my home. I could practically walk to work. But I just really felt a tugging to come to this position when God blessed me with the opportunity and the governor tapped me on the shoulder. And I want you to know that I'm so thankful to have this job. You know, one of the first conversations I ever had with Governor Kemp, he emphasized to me some areas of concern that he had in the criminal justice arena. One was criminal street gangs. He said, you know, Vic, I want you to be assertive and aggressive in going after these individuals. And another area that the governor was extremely concerned about is the issue of human trafficking. In fact, the governor became not only concerned with this issue, his entire family did as well. And they committed themselves to doing something about it. Let me tell you where I really think that began. Some of you may remember back in January of 2019, just a short period of time after the election, and probably a week or so before the governor was sworn in as our 83rd governor. At Atlantic Station, a number of folks got together and held a meeting to show the effects of human trafficking. And as one of the props, there were a number of empty school buses, and the individuals there told us that those buses represented, the empty seats in those buses represented the number of children that were pulled into human trafficking right here in our state. And I will tell you that it not only had an effect on me, it had a tremendous effect on this governor, his family, and the First Lady, Marty Kemp. And since then, I don't think there's anyone that I know who's done more to shed light on the problem of human trafficking in this country than our First Lady in Georgia here, Marty Kemp. And one thing I have learned too, it's amazing what can be done when a governor and a First Lady of a state make something a priority. Things begin to happen, and I've certainly seen that here in our state. You know, right after Governor Kemp took office, the First Lady began putting together what we now know as the Grace Commission. And I think one of the folks may have mentioned that in the video earlier. I'm honored to co-chair the Grace Commission with Marty Kemp. That commission, which stands for Georgians for Refuge, Action, Compassion, and Education, was created for the specific purpose to combat and fight the threat of human trafficking in our state. The Grace Commission is composed of public officials, of folks in law enforcement like myself, for-profit and nonprofit organizations, and subject matter experts brought together to tackle this issue of human trafficking, to seek justice for the victims of this terrible offense, and to hold bad actors accountable. We've met several times in open meetings which are available for the public to come and listen. In fact, as I was telling Deborah earlier, our next meeting is October the 22nd, and we're going to hold that here at the GBI headquarters. If any of you listening to me today would like to attend, either virtually or in person, we'd be honored to have you, and I'd certainly be honored to serve as your host for that. If you'll let me know, you can be my guest, and we'll love to have you. It begins at 10 a.m. on October the 22nd. But not only has the Grace Commission affected things and brought to the attention for the folks here in Georgia, it's also caught the attention of national figures. Just last week, I had the good fortune of sitting in a meeting with our National Attorney General, Mr. Bill Barr, and the White House senior advisor, Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter. They visited Georgia to see what we were doing here in our state to fight human trafficking. And we learned from that meeting in less than 2 years in our battle against human trafficking in Georgia, we went from a trafficking score of F to a 96, the second highest in the country. That's something we certainly can be proud of. And as I said a moment ago, you think it's exciting when a sitting governor gets involved. Just wait till a sitting president, his cabinet, and his advisors begin learning about an issue. Things certainly start moving. And I can tell you from my discussion with the Attorney General of this country that day, he's extremely proud and impressed with what we're doing here, and we need to continue it. But as the director of the GBI, I still felt as if we could do more. And we began discussions internally in the Bureau with my investigative division and my command staff on what we could do. We went out looking for grant money to see if there's anything that might plug into some of the ideas of fighting human trafficking. I'm very proud and honored to tell you that as of July 1st of this past summer, 2020, we stood up for the first time the HEAT, H-E-A-T unit, which is housed here at GBI headquarters. This specialized unit, which stands for Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit, is comprised of hand-picked agents. We literally went through the Bureau and picked the agents we wanted to work in that unit. They've been tasked with 3 things. Their first task is to combat commercial sex trafficking, to find it, to pursue it, to make sure that it stops. We also have been tasked, those agents, with finding and locating the victims, the adult victims of human trafficking. We already have a standalone unit, our SEAC unit, which works with child human trafficking cases around the state. It's another unit that I'm very proud of. But a third mission that we tasked that HEAT unit with was to investigate and ferret out labor trafficking. That's just something we haven't done in the state, and I'm very proud of the fact that we're beginning to do that because we haven't done nearly enough in that arena, and I'm convinced that we can make a difference there as well. You know, this unit has hit the ground running, as GBI agents tend to do. They're currently investigating cases throughout the state. They have jurisdiction over the entire state of Georgia. They're committed to this fight. I can see it in what they do day in and day out, and I couldn't be more proud of these agents. I intend on introducing them to the Grace Commission on the 22nd, so that may be another motive or another incentive for you to come and join us that day as I introduce the agents that are involved in the HEAT unit. I'm also very pleased to see what we're beginning to do for the victims of human trafficking in Georgia. You know, for years, and law enforcement was certainly guilty of this, we often considered the victims of human trafficking as criminals. Often you would see people charged with things like counts of prostitution and things of that nature. And while we did this, the true perpetrators, the traffickers, and particularly those who were demanding these services were often never brought to justice. That has to change, and I see it changing in our state. I can tell you that as far as law enforcement is concerned, and certainly as far as the GBI is concerned, we began realizing that those who are forced to sell their bodies or are being used for illegal labor purposes are the true victims in this case. We must be willing as law enforcement, must be willing as organizations, both private and public, to have the courage to make sure that the right perpetrators are held accountable. particularly those, including those who are demanding these illegal services. When we curb demand, we will stop trafficking. And that's what we need to be focusing on in the state. As I tell the agents of the GBI, particularly those who are working in the HEAT unit, our mantra and our mission is relatively straightforward in these cases. We're not going to permit or allow another human being in our state to be sold for commercial sex purposes, for illegal labor purposes. We're not going to do it. If you're a child or an adult, we're not going to permit it. And if you do it in this state, then we will find you. We will arrest you, and we will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. And then we intend on being in the court on sentencing date to make sure the judge has sentenced you in an appropriate fashion. I want that message to be very clear that that's the Bureau's drive and goal in working these human trafficking cases, that we're not going to permit it in the state of Georgia. We must also, as a group of concerned individuals, make sure we continue to treat the victims as just that, victims. Services must be provided to make their lives better. That's the least we can do for them. I'm very proud of our relationship here at the Bureau with the nonprofit organizations committed to helping these victims. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with them. You and I both know how sometimes very difficult it is to get these victims to a level of cooperation just because of what they've been through, the life they've had to live, the fear that they take with them day in and day out. So we must continue to work with them and make sure that these organizations are available and viable and have the resources to make sure our victims one day put their lives back together and lead the productive life that all of us want and expect from them. And finally, you and I must recommit ourselves to staying in this fight. We must never accept anything less than total victory in the fight against human trafficking. And I tell you today that I'm confident that with folks like you involved here, we can achieve this goal in our lifetime. Again, let me conclude by just thanking you so much for what you do day in and day out in this battle against human trafficking. And thank you. I'm very honored and humble for the chance to speak to you today. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.